I guess I'm a Booktube channel now. She kind of develops Stockholm Syndrome. Hey y'all. Hey y'all, Moonbeams, I guess. Welcome back. You know, it's been a while. I kind of got bored. You know, school got in the way, other stuff. I didn't have time, and I didn't have any ideas, and I just didn't like doing it anymore, but I'm back because I want to talk about books. But yeah, so I'm going to talk about books today. I don't know, reading's just something I've been kind of doing since I was like a little kid. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go through a bunch of the books I read this year. You know, maybe some of y'all out there need some recommendations. I've watched a lot of booktubers, they do like monthly wrap-ups, so that's kind of the idea of what I'm doing right now. But I'm just gonna go through like since the beginning of the year. At the very beginning of the year, the first book I read in 2023 was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. So it was, I think this was like a big TikTok book, like it blew up through TikTok. So yeah, that's where a friend recommended it to me, which is actually how I read a lot of my books. But We Were Liars, it was my first experience with like unreliable narrators. It was like pretty interesting, and the twist at the end, I don't know, it was just, you kind of have to read it to like understand what's going on. Like, I haven't read many books like this before with the, like, where it's like, I don't know how you would describe it, like whimsical, but there's like an unreliable narrator. It's not your standard style of writing that you see in a lot of books. You kind of just have to read it. Like, I'm not sure how I can explain it really. So yeah, We Were Liars, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It has an average rating of 3.7 on Goodreads. So I mean, I would recommend that one if you're looking for something a little more refreshing, a little more interesting, new, if you're getting tired of like the traditional writing style. So the next book I read in January was actually Colleen Hoover book. We all know how the internet feels about that, but November 9, I read November 9. It was like one of the first romance books I've ever read. Like, I read romance before that, but this year I really had a romance phase. So like, I've been trying to read more romance books just to like, you know, see what all the fuss is about. I'm gonna talk about spoilers a little bit, but so November 9, you probably know it already. You probably, if you're on Booktube, you've probably read it already. You've definitely heard of Colleen Hoover. But November 9, I'm just gonna read the Goodreads summary here. So, Fallon meets Ben, an aspiring novelist, the day before a scheduled cross-country move. Their untimely attraction leads them to spend Fallon's last day in LA together, and her eventful life becomes the creative inspiration Ben has always sought for in his novel. Over time, and amidst the various relationships and tribulations of their own separate lives, they continue to meet on the same date every year, until one day Fallon becomes unsure if Ben has been telling her the truth or fabricating a perfect reality for the sake of the ultimate plot twist. Can Ben's relationship with Fallon, and simultaneously his novel, be considered a love story if it ends in heartbreak? So that's the summary. It has a 4.2 on Goodreads. I gave it a 3 stars personally. So, in my own words, our main characters, we follow Fallon and Ben. It's a dual POV book. You learn, like, Fallon, she was in a house fire, and she has these scars, like, on the side of her face. So she has some like trauma and insecurities and things to deal with around that, you know, character development throughout the book. But she's living in LA and she's moving to a new city, or she's living somewhere else and she's moving to LA. Either way, it's been a while since I read the book. I read it in January. But on her last day in her town, she meets Ben. On a whim, they spend the day together. You know, they're vibing, they're clicking, but she has to move, right? Like the next day. So they agree to meet up every year on November 9th, which was her last day in her city. Now, I'm not going to talk about the ending. Like, I said I was going to do spoilers, but like, I'm just going to explain the plot a little bit. Maybe I'll talk more in depth about other books, like that I'm more excited about. But actually, this is the thing with a lot of Colleen Hoover books. I find that she's a lot of the time uses drama for like, just to have it there. Like, she uses trauma just to like create drama in her story, in her books. I don't know, sometimes she handles like the trauma that her characters have in a good way, and sometimes I feel a little icky about the way she does. If you read her books, you would know what I mean, but I don't want to like spoil a bunch of other ones. So yeah, November 9, 3 out of 5 stars, like not great. A little note about how I rate books, by the way. It's like, I feel like I rate really leniently. I didn't like November 9 that much, but I still gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. So like, on Goodreads, that's defined as an I liked it. So, you know, it's probably more like a 2 out of 5 stars. I should probably do some cleaning out of my Goodreads list, you know, organize some things, adjust my ratings, but you know, maybe I can do another video. The next book I read in January was Crown of Midnight. So it was the second book in the Throne of Glass series. In 2022, I'd started reading the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Also a TikTok book. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. Like the first Throne of Glass, I liked it well enough, I think. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. So Throne of Glass is about Selena, our main character. I'll just read the Goodreads summary. In a land without magic, where the king rules with an iron hand, an assassin is summoned to the castle. She comes not to kill the king, but to win her freedom. So that's kind of like the first little bit of the summary on Goodreads. She is an assassin, and one day she is summoned to the castle to compete in a competition of like 23 killers, assassins, criminals. And if she wins the competition, then she gets to be released from prison and be the king's champion. So basically do his dirty work for killing and stuff. She meets the crown prince. She meets the captain of the guard. I forgot their names. Honestly, I'm not sure why I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Like, this book didn't resonate with me at all. I mean, I liked it well enough while I was reading it, but like after, I can't even remember like half of the people's names. But like, yeah, so obviously she wins the competition and the book ends with her becoming the king's champion. I forgot a lot of what happened in the middle because again, it didn't resonate with me that much, but I decided to continue reading it. So in January, I read the second book, Crown of Midnight. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars and I DNF'd it because honestly, I just got really bored. Like, I can't remember because it was so many months ago, but for some reason, I just found it super boring. So here's a Goodreads summary again. A line that should never be crossed is about to be breached. It puts the entire castle in jeopardy and the life of your friend. From the throne of glass rules a king with a fist of iron and a soul as black as pitch. Assassin Selena Sardothian won a brutal contest to become his champion, yet Selena is far from loyal to the crown. She hides her secret vigilantly. She knows that the man she serves is bent on evil. Keeping up the deadly charade becomes increasingly difficult when Selena realizes she's not the only one seeking justice. As she tries to untangle the mysteries buried deep within the glass castle, her closest relationships suffer. It seems no one is above questioning her allegiances. Not the Crown Prince Dorian, not Yall, the captain of the guard, not even her best friend, Nehemia, a foreign princess with a rebel heart. Then one terrible night, the secrets they have all been keeping lead to an unspeakable tragedy. As Selena's world shatters, she will be forced to give up the very thing most precious to her and decide once and for all where her true loyalties lie, and whom she is ultimately willing to fight for. So, you know, she's the champion now. She's trying to, like, she doesn't like the king. She's not loyal to him. She's gonna overthrow him. She's questioning who her allegiances lie with. You know, who do I trust? What do I do with my life? Honestly, pretty relatable, but I don't know. I just got bored. It's just like, I feel like not much was happening, so I DNF'd it for whatever reason. But anyways, moving on. The next book I read, the last book I read in January, was also a sequel, actually. It's The Hawthorne Legacy, which is the second book in the Inheritance games. I read the entire trilogy. It's like, I really like the Inheritance games, honestly. I gave the first book, the Inheritance games, 5 out of 5 stars. I gave the second book 5 out of 5 stars. I gave the last book, The Final Gambit, which actually came out just last year, 3 out of 5 stars. So starting with the Inheritance games, our main character is Avery Kylie Grams, and you know, she's poor and she's going through high school, and suddenly one day, just out of the blue, she receives a letter, I think, a letter or something, from the Hawthorne family, who is this rich family, lives in Texas, you know, rich Texas billionaires. And it says that he had given her his inheritance. But to receive her inheritance, Avery has to move into the Hawthorne house and live there for a year. And of course, Tobias Hawthorne, the dead billionaire, has 4 grandsons, and she becomes friends with them, falls in love with like 2 of them. And we just follow her, you know, living there, you know, coming to terms with being rich, I guess. And, you know, Tobias Hawthorne in this book, his whole shtick is that he's like, he loves riddles, he loves games. So he has left her a trail of sorts of like clues and puzzles and games so that she can find out why he left her inheritance. But one thing I don't understand, like, I think they make it a whole thing that like it would be dangerous, I think, if like other people knew why. But like honestly, I mean, he could have just left her a letter, right? But you know, for the book, we follow her as she goes through these clues, tries to find out why this happened to her, you know, discover her true purpose and destiny. But I actually liked it. It was pretty entertaining. There's also the whole thing of like Avery getting used to being super rich. Like, oh my god, I have a private jet. Oh my god, I have 200 vacation homes. Oh my god, I own a baseball team. Like, it was kind of funny at first, but like I got bored of that pretty quickly. It kind of gets old, but I still gave it a 5 out of 5 stars because, you know, despite all the things I've said so far, it was a pretty decent book. And so in January, I read The Hawthorne Legacy, which is the sequel. So the Inheritance Games ends when I'm pretty sure it's revealed that there was this dude that she used to play chess in the park with before she moved into Hawthorne House, and it turns out that she's the missing grandson or something, or the missing son of Tobias Hawthorne. And his name is also Tobias Hawthorne, but we call him Toby for the sake of, you know, differentiating them. And some of the clues were left by him or something. I don't know. But I also gave it 5 stars. I liked it decently, I think. I don't know, for some reason, even with books I tend to forget the plot. Like, for me to remember what a book is about for more than 2 months, it has to really like make an imprint on me. It has to be significant. But anyways, so she's still trying to figure out in this book why this rich freaking billionaire left her his entire fortune of like $47.2 billion or something. And she takes a DNA test and she finds out that she's not related to the Hawthorns. So it's not possible that that's why Tobias Hawthorne left her his inheritance. But yeah, they keep doing riddles and solving riddles and playing games to keep figuring it out. It's a lot of the same as the first book, honestly, but I also gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I guess it was pretty good, because honestly, I can't remember, but I will talk about the 3rd book later when I get to that point in my timeline. The next book I read, the first book I read in February, was A Court of Mist and Fury, or ACOMAF, as it's known in the fandom. It's another sequel in a series. It's the 2nd book in ACOTAR, which is also by Sarah J. Maas. I didn't like Throne of Glass, but for some reason I decided to start reading ACOTAR because I heard that it was like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I thought that was kind of interesting, but fans of the series know that's only for the first book. After that, it kind of goes in other directions, but I'm just going to talk about ACOTAR first. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It was alright. I mean, Tamlin, I never liked him in the beginning. You know, if you've read it, you know. But anyways, when 19-year-old Huntress Feyre kills the wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. So, Feyre, she lives with her 2 sisters and her father, who's crippled, doesn't do anything. You know, she's your Katniss Everdeen, Hermione Granger, you know, archetype. She's strong, she is fierce, she is a girl boss. She's hunting in the woods to, you know, feed her family. It's the middle of the winter. She's starving and desperate. And oh, look, it's a wolf. So she kills a wolf. But actually, it wasn't a wolf because it was a fairy. And then after she kills the wolf, this huge monster comes and breaks her door down and is like, hey, you're coming with me because you killed a fairy with hate in your heart or something dramatic like that. Because humans hate fairies, fairies hate humans, you know, that's a thing in this world, you know, some kind of message about racism. But anyways, so she is captured, taken, whatever, to the fairyland, and you know, she kind of develops Stockholm syndrome. That's, you know, I never listed, but that's basically what this book is about. So Tamlin, her captor, fairy, he is the High Lord of the Spring Court. And so when she gets there, she's living in his mansion. Oh no, whatever will I do? He promises to take care of her family, so he wipes their brains, he erases their memories, he gives them like food in a big house or something. So, oh no, I was poor and starving and my family was too, and I have to live in a big mansion and have my family be taken care of. Like, okay, I get it, like, you're being captured, but also like, isn't this kind of good? Anyways, she lives there, and as the Goodreads description says, Feyre discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal, immortal fairies who once ruled her world. At least, he's not a beast all the time. So anyways, by that, when they get back to the mansion, Tamlin changes to his fairy form, which is more human-like. And like, fairies are supposed to be like, they're supposed to have like lethal beauty or something. I don't know, it's kind of cringe. That concept is kind of cringe. I don't like perfect characters. No one's perfect. So don't write your characters to be perfect, you know? But anyways, he's beautiful. All the fairies are beautiful. They're all perfect. 10 out of 10s. And over the course of time, she starts to be friendly with him, realizes he's not such a bad guy. And she starts to fall in love with him. Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, anyways, so Tamlin, as the Goodreads description says, transforms from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. More importantly, in this fairy world, there is a disease, a curse, that is like taking away all the magic and making all the bad fairies come out. And so Feyre now is curious and keeps asking Tamlin, and he keeps telling her not to worry about it, but then stuff happens and she has to deal with it. And then at the end, like when I started this book, I thought it was just gonna be Stockholm syndrome. Feyre falls in love with her captor. In the last 100 pages, it just goes completely off the rails. I'm not gonna spoil it because you have to really read it for yourself. But just know that wolf was sent out there on purpose, and she was killed on purpose. And all Tamlin ever wanted was for her to fall in love with him. It's honestly so ridiculous, but you gotta read it for yourself. So 3 out of 5 stars. You know, it was a little weird. Anyways, ACOTAR, A Court of Mr. Fury. I gave that one a 4 out of 5. It was better than the first one. I feel like after Sarah J. Maas strayed away from like the Beauty and the Beast thing and started telling kind of her own story more, it started to get better. But anyways, so this book starts with Feyre back with Tamlin, about to marry him. Because I didn't spoil the end of the first book, but obviously, you know, they're gonna be together, you know, love always wins in the end. But here's a summary. Here's a little thing, okay? As her marriage to Tamlin gets closer, Feyre continues to have nightmares and trauma about the ending that I didn't talk about in the first book. She goes through so much trauma. She has nightmares. She is broken. And Tamlin isn't helping her. So, you know, she doesn't really want to... She starts to not want to marry him so much, you know? Things start to get uncomfortable. Like, honestly, I can make a whole, like, probably 10-hour video, like, going through the whole plot of this series, because there's so much. But anyways, In the first book, we actually met Rhysand, who is the High Lord of the Night Court. He, you know, we all think he's evil. He's bad. We learned that he is no good, apparently. So, in the first book, in the ending, in the last 100 pages, to get out of a sticky situation, she made a bargain with Rhysand. And I see bargains in the fairy world are they mean a lot. You cannot break them or you will die. So her bargain was to basically spend like a week or something of every month with Rhysand, like in his house. Yeah, kind of weird, but you know. So her life is split into that. And she starts to hate Tamlin because he's becoming like overprotective. You know, like a real problem in the world. But, you know, she starts to kind of fall for Rhysand, who turns out just like Tamlin to not have such an icy cold heart. But anyways, that's all I'm going to talk about this series. I'm going to mention over this timeline when I read the next books, but I'm not going to talk more about the rest of the series because I said I'm not going to spoil it too much, and if I talk about the next books, I'm going to spoil more stuff. So, the next book I read was Uzumaki. I read it in February, literally like the day after I finished ACOMAF, because it's like, if you've read Junji Ito before, it's horror manga. So it was like very different from all the stuff that I usually read. But like, I kind of liked it. Because I can't handle like horror movies and stuff. But I can read horror books, I can read thrillers. And like, even with the visuals, because it's like a manga, I really liked it. But it did give me nightmares for a little bit. If you Google Junji Ito, Google the scary illustrations, so I have like a jump scare. It's so unnerving, some of the things he writes about. Like, I don't know how this man comes up with these plots. But yeah, it's just like the story of a town that's being like possessed by a spiral, like the shape of a spiral. Yeah, you do have to read it to understand it, but it was honestly pretty good. I only gave it a 3 out of 5 though, because like everything was so good. Like the story was so good. The art was like, for what it was like good, but it gave me nightmares. So it was like personally not my thing. Like horror is not my favorite, but I've read good horror stories. So, you know, check it out if you like manga or Junji Ito. The next book I read in February was The Atlas 6. So another TikTok book by Olivia Blake. I think this was one of her first books, if not her debut or something, but like, this was pretty interesting. So it was my first foray into the world of dark academia. So let me just read the Goodreads description again. The Alexandrian Society, caretakers of lost knowledge from the great civilizations of antiquity, are the foremost secret society of magical academicians in the world. Those who earn a place among the Alexandrians will secure a life of wealth, power, and prestige beyond their wildest dreams. In each decade, only the 6 most uniquely talented magicians are selected to be considered for initiation. So that's the first little paragraph. I don't know if you heard me stumble through some of those words, but like, this book is written with like big words, big language, big sentences, and there's some pretty complex like topics, ideas in this book. Like, I could, you know, those fluffy romances, like I could read those just fine if I'm only like half paying attention and still fully understand the plot. For this, this book needed my full undivided attention, so I kept reading it on and off for a while, and it took me so long to finish. I think it took me like 2 months, but like it was pretty good. It was worth it. So the Alexandrian Society, they have like, it's like a library of like all the knowledge in the world. Oh, it's like, oh, this transcript has been lost. This like, these lost works of Mozart have not been found for centuries. They're probably in the Alexandrian library, and they're probably gatekeeping it from the world. But so every 10 years, 6 of the best, most unique magicians in the world, because magic is just a normal thing in this alternate universe, are inducted into this school, I guess. I mean, it's kind of dark academia, but it's not exactly school. Anyways, into this program to be considered for initiation. They have a year. And so our 6 main characters, very interesting. Libby Rhodes, Nico de Verona. They are both, their magic is something to do with, they have like telekinesis basically. And they both have it. They are like, they're academic rivals. They're that kind of trope. And then Reina Mori is a naturalist. She's kind of like an introvert. Well, not exactly. She's more of like a loner. She's like that one character in stories, books, movies. That's like, I hate everything. The world is stupid. I'm the only smart one in here. Anyway, she's pretty cool, but she can control plants. And honestly, I think that is like a thing throughout this book. She can hear plants talking, and I guess in this world they're really annoying. They're like,
man, I'm thirsty. Someone should water me.
You know, it's like that was kind of funny. And then there's also Parisa, who is like very pretty, perfect, beautiful, and she knows it apparently. She can like read minds and like enter people's dreams and stuff. Like, she can go into your mind basically. There's Callum, who can sense feelings and also alter your feelings and control you. It's kind of scary, and Callum's so annoying as a character, but anyways, and then the last one, Tristan Kane. And his thing is kind of ambiguous. He can like see through illusions. Like in this world, you know, with magic, like you can just magically, I don't know, if you have like a scratch on your face, you can hide it with magic or whatever. Tristan can see through that. And there's more to that. There's more than that. There's more to his power than that, but they'll go in depth to that in the book. So it's like 6 POVs. So you can see through all of their POVs over the course of the book, but I don't know. It's like, again, like I said when I started talking about this, it's like kind of complicated. So I'm not the person. I wasn't that invested in this book. Like, I'm not the one who should explain this. But, you know, there's a little bit of romance in there too. And what's interesting about this dynamic, these characters, you could easily ship all 6 of them, any of them with each other. Like, you could ship Libby with any of the other 5. You could ship Nico with any of the other 5. It's just super interesting how they like create this how Olivia Blake like creates this dynamic. But I don't know if I gave you a good idea of what this book is about, but you know, Google it if you want to know more, because honestly, I read it so long ago, and this book was just so much. So yeah, the next book I read in March, which was the first book I read in March, was Ugly Love, again, Colleen Hoover. So again, trauma. When Tate Collins meets airline pilot Miles Archer, she knows it isn't love at first sight. They wouldn't even go so far to consider themselves as friends. So Tate doesn't want a relationship. Tate doesn't want a relationship. Miles doesn't have time for a relationship. No, Miles doesn't want a relationship. Tate doesn't have time for a relationship. So they're kind of like on and off, like together but not together, but like there's no emotional connection. I don't know. Now Miles' whole thing is that he has trauma from a past relationship, and this is one of those books where like you get a dual POV, but you see Tate's POV in the present and Miles' POV in the past when he was going through his trauma. It was okay. Again, I think it uses like trauma for the sake of having trauma. Like they almost romanticize trauma. Like Colleen Hoover almost romanticizes trauma sometimes. She just used it for like dramatic effect. But like it was alright. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Next book, The Stolen Heir. I actually read the entire Folk of the Air series, you know, The Cruel Prince. It's really good. I will probably dedicate a whole video to it in the future. But this is like a sequel series about Cardan's brother, Oak. It's kind of like a quest story. There's this, our main character is Surin, who had these abusive parents who were these two fairies who were ruling over the Court of Teeth, and they're very bad. They stole her away from her human family because she was actually fae the whole time. I don't know, something like that. But now Oak is here. He needs Surin's help, and he is on a mission. And they fall in love. I can't remember what their mission was. Again, books tend to not resonate with me so well, but it was pretty good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Like, their dynamic, like the romance in this book between Oak and Surin is just, it's so cute. Because like Surin has been like lonely her entire life. She's not like traditionally attractive. Because she's like a fairy. She has like blue skin. Her teeth are very sharp. But Oak sees the beauty in her. And they're so cute together. And she's like experiencing having a friend for the first time. You know? It's pretty great. Like, at first she starts out as like kind of his captive. Because like he's kind of forcing her to go along with him. Again, Stockholm Syndrome, but like, it works in this book. And then I read The Court of Wings and Ruin, ACOTAR. I give 5 out of 5 stars. This book is mostly war, so like, it wasn't my favorite like war books. Like, I read the Red Queen series, and the last book, War Storm, I just could not get through it because it was just so much war talk and it was so boring. I just could not get through it. But this one kind of worked. Sarah J. Maas, you know, pretty good. Rhysand and Feyre, their dynamic gets a little old after a while, but you know, I still gave it a 5 out of 5 stars somehow. But anyways, next book I read was A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is like a novella of after the series. I don't know, it was kind of boring. Not much happened in it. They're like they're celebrating like the winter solstice, and like it's just exploring like Feyre finally being able to experience being like the High Lady. Oh, spoiler. Anyways, doesn't matter. I already spoiled a bunch of other stuff, so it's fine, I guess. But yeah, it was okay. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. I just wasn't interested. So, this next book, I was so excited. This book was so great. And I only gave it 4 out of 5 stars for some reason, but I read Shatter Me. And I read in April, at the beginning of April, like 2 months ago. I was pretty late to the Shatter Me hype train when it blew up, and also came out like 12 years ago, but like, I loved this trilogy. I loved this trilogy so much. Technically I'm not done it yet, but I'll talk about that later. It's like, also this writing style, like again with writing styles, this was so refreshing. Like, if you've read it, you know about the strike-throughs. Like, I just find like using the strike-throughs as a way to represent her mental instability, it was just like so interesting to see what the thoughts in her head that she was like didn't want to go through, I guess. Like, here's an example, like in the Goodreads description. I have a curse, strike through. I have a gift. I'm a monster, strike through. I'm more than human. My touch is lethal, strike through. My touch is power. I am their weapon, strike through. I will fight back. Like, she's trying so hard to be strong, but she's been like so abused and tortured her whole life. But basically, let me explain. So Juliet, our main character, she can't touch people. If she touches people, they start to die. And if she touches them long enough, their vital functions start to shut down and they do die. So she's been thrown around in asylums and like mental hospitals her whole life. But now someone is thrown into her cell with her. And it's Adam. Who it turns out is, I can't remember exactly, but he's good. He's a good guy. And so he spent some time with her, but oh no, turns out she's working for like she's a soldier of Sector 45. So basically this is like a dystopian story. Like the world has been taking over, like the reestablishment. Like the world has been ravaged by climate change and the reestablishment is promising a better future if they just do whatever they say. But so Adam turns out to be a soldier of the head person of like this little place that they live in. And like there's these sectors, like every continent is divided into different sectors and they're all controlled by the reestablishment. So Adam is a soldier of the reestablishment, but no, he's a good guy. Cause he doesn't like this. He wants a better future. So they run away. They end up running away, and they end up joining. At the end of the book, they end up joining resistance called Omega Point. Now, Adam and Juliet, like their romance is kind of cute at first, but it's like it always felt like Juliet was falling for Adam because he was like the only choice that she had. Because I forgot to mention, Adam can touch Juliet without consequences. But asterisk. I will talk about it in depth in another video. But so Adam, I mean, like, I felt like she kind of chose him because she was like her only choice and the first person to like ever be nice to her. So like, I don't know, it was kind of icky. And Juliet's just kind of broken the whole book. Because like, I understand she has all this trauma, but like, I'm not going to say that it gets old, but it's like, I got used to it. Like, it was all new and shiny at first, like this style of writing, but like, I got used to it, but I still liked it a lot. Another thing about the writing in this book, and you know how like if it's a single digit number, they'll actually write out the number in letters in the books. Yeah, well, in this book, they don't. Like Tahira Mafi, great author, by the way. In this book, if Julia will be like, I have 2 eyes. And instead of writing TWO, it'll be the number 2, you know? You have to read it to understand, as, you know, with most books, but yeah. And like her trauma, so like the narration, it's from first person perspective. So like the narration is kind of like, I wake up, I see Adam. He has 2 eyes, 2 eyebrows, 2 lips, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 hands. You know? It was just an interesting read. I really liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5. And then I read A Court of Silver Flames, the sequel book to A Court of Thorns and Roses, ACOTAR, about Nesta and Cassian. Honestly, I really liked their relationship, but this book was so long. It was like almost 700 pages. I felt like it could have been shorter. It didn't really resonate with me. I mean, they were cute. Nesta is strong and Cassian's strong. I mean, yeah, I don't have much to say about this book, honestly. If you like ACOTAR, then you should read it. That's all I can really say. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay. Then I read the final Gambit. The final book in the Inheritance games. So she's approaching her 18th birthday, and she is also, so she can inherit her stuff officially. And she is also approaching the day where she will finally reach a year in Hawthorne House and also officially inherit. She's being chased by the paparazzi. She has a bunch of financial stuff to deal with. People are trying to kill her. She's trying to choose between Grayson or Jameson, the two pretty Hawthorne boys. She's friends with Xander though, at least. Like, I like the fact that she doesn't have to be in love with all of them. Like Xander and Nash. Nash is my favorite out of all of them by far. Because Jameson's thing, it gets really annoying really fast. And Xander's like happy all the time, and that also gets kind of old. Happy that Xander and Avery can like be best friends though. And Nash has a thing with Avery's sister, so you know. Not much to say about the finale, honestly. I gave it the lowest rating. I only gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It didn't really stick with me. After that, I read Unravel Me, which is the second book in Shatter Me. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Because, honestly, this book starts out so annoying. Juliet is, like, so mopey for the first half of the book. Because, like, she's part of this resistance now, right? They're all contributing. They're all fighting. They're all doing stuff to progress and try to fight back against the reestablishment. And Juliet is just sitting there whining about not being able to see Adam for, like, half the book. But it gets so good at the end. Trust me. So I gave it 5 stars. Oh, and I completely forgot to mention Warner, who is the head of Sector 45. So, like, she is led to believe that he's this horrible person. But in this book, she finds out that, oh, maybe he's not such a bad person after all. And obviously they fall in love. But that mostly happens in the 3rd book. So, like, you know. And also, Warner can also touch her. So that's, like, an interesting development. She explores her trauma. And at the end, Omega Point, the resistance is destroyed. And the book ends with Juliet kind of like being like, I'm tired of moping around. I am going and I will take off my gloves and touch people and kill them. And I will take back my world. That's kind of what this whole book's about. Anyways, the last book I read in May was The Unhoneymooners. It's a romance book about Olive, who has a twin, and her name is Ami. And she's always been unlucky. But when Ami, her twin sister Ami, has a wedding, and everyone gets food poisoning, but because Olive is allergic to seafood, she didn't eat the seafood buffet that gave everyone else food poisoning. So Ami asks Olive to go on her honeymoon, hence the Unhoneymooners. But you know who else is going? Ethan, who she hates because she thought he fat shamed her when they first met, but it's all a misunderstanding. But anyways, they don't know that yet. And Ethan is like pretentious. He doesn't like buffets, so he didn't eat the seafood buffet. He had chicken. So he's also going on the honeymoon because his brother, who is marrying Ami, so Ethan's like Olive's sister's husband's brother, her brother-in-law. He's also going on the honeymoon with her, so they have to pretend to be in love. It's like a fake dating book. I honestly really liked it. It was pretty entertaining. The setup was kind of unrealistic, but they're pretty cute. You know, they get to know each other. They realize that each other's not so bad after all. Ethan's always loved her, but Ethan's brother told her to stay away from him. Oh, there's all this drama in the middle, but it was pretty good. Unhoneymooners. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So that's all the books that I've read so far this year. But here are the books I am currently reading. I only have one actually. Oh, and I forgot to mention I have the Unhoneymooners actually right here. I could also do another whole video about cover art, but like, this is my favorite cover ever, but like, I don't know, I like these flowers. I like the way, because they go to Maui or something, or Hawaii, For the honeymoon, I like the little flowers in the toucan. I especially like the toucan. It's pretty cute. But anyways. Also, Christina Lauren. I didn't know this at first, but it's actually 2 people. It's a pen name for 2 people. Christina and Lauren. I've read a couple of other of her romance books, and I like most of them, honestly. They've all gotten like 3 to 5 stars for me, but anyway. I am currently reading the final book in the Shatter Me trilogy. I am this much through. Right after this. Whoa, where's my bookmark? Oh, there it is. Also about bookmarks. I love this bookmark. It's so pretty. This chain used to be longer and used to have a butterfly clipped onto it. And there used to be a little bulb with like purple jewels in it. It was really pretty, but it was cheap. And a friend bought it for me and it broke. So, it's still pretty though. Anyways, I am this much of the way through, so I'm almost done. The Warner and Juliet thing is developing and I love it. I'm so in. I am invested. But I'm gonna do a reading vlog about this for my next video, so that's all for this video, I guess. It was kind of unplanned. I just kind of went through my Goodreads of 2023 and just, you know, rifle through it. I'm pretty excited about books and I don't have that many book friends, so this was a chance for me to talk about it. I was also inspired by like some of my favorite booktubers, like The Book Leora Eileen, Jack Edwards, A Clockwork Reader. Yeah, so that's how I got the idea to do this video. Anyways, that's me talking about books for like an hour, 45 minutes maybe. I'm gonna do this again probably next month, but I'm gonna plan it better, hopefully. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Maybe give me some ideas, book recommendations, whatever. I love reading. If you're watching this, you probably love reading. This is probably a Booktube channel now, so catch y'all later.